According to YouTube analytics, 98% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, the alarms screamed through the Grand Summit Hall, and Security Chief Kael'thas couldn't believe what his threat detection system was telling him. After 300 years of flawless service, the sensors had never been wrong. Not once. And right now, they were registering an apex predator standing in the middle of 47 species' most important peace negotiation, pouring coffee. "More for anyone?" Emma Johnson asked brightly, holding up the carafe. "I made extra." Kael'thas's secondary heart seized. The human diplomat was smiling. Her biosignature blazed across his tactical display like a solar flare. Predator pheromones, hunting adaptations, threat level catastrophic, and she was offering beverages. "Chief, we have a situation." Vexia's voice crackled through his calm, tension bleeding through every syllable. The senior xenobiologist sounded like she was watching her own death approach. "The human, I'm reading. This can't be right. Tell me the sensors are malfunctioning." "I wish I could." Kael'thas's claws flexed involuntarily against his control pad. Around the circular chamber, he could see it happening. The Verdanian ambassador's fur had flattened completely against her body. The Quillan delegation had unconsciously clustered together, their feeding appendages tucked tight. Even the Threxian trade minister, whose species hadn't been prey in 4 million years, had shifted his chair back from the table. Instinct. Pure, undeniable, species-deep instinct screaming at them, predator present. Emma set down the coffee pot and pulled up a holographic display. "So, as I was saying about the agricultural exports from Sector 7, I think we can negotiate favorable terms for—" She paused, tilting her head. Those forward-facing eyes swept the room. "Is everything okay? You all look a little tense." Forward-facing eyes. Kael'thas felt his own prey response trying to activate, the ancient Cytherian flight instinct that his people had supposedly evolved past millennia ago. His scales prickled. "Vexia," he subvocalized into his comm. "Confirm readings." "Now." "Already done. Triple-checked." The xenobiologist's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Kael'thas, she's not just a predator. Binocular vision, pursuit hunter, persistence physiology, endurance predator, omnivorous dentition with pronounced canines, sweat glands for thermal regulation during extended hunts. And those hands, a sharp intake of breath, opposable thumbs, tool-using apex predator. She checks every box for a species that hunted its way to the top of the food chain." "The humans passed our screening protocols," Kael'thas hissed. "They were cleared for diplomatic contact." "I don't know how they passed, but the scanner doesn't lie. That woman could hunt down and kill 2/3 of this assembly before we could activate emergency protocols." As if on cue, Emma laughed at something the Verdanian ambassador had nervously stammered. The sound echoed through the hall, friendly, warm, utterly incongruous with the threat data cascading across Kael'thas's screen. Several delegates flinched. "Okay, seriously, what's wrong?" Emma's smile faded into concern. "Ambassador Zara, you're shaking. Do you need medical attention?" Zara, the Verdanian herbivore diplomat, made a sound that her species only made when cornered by natural predators. It was a fear bleat, something Kael'thas had only heard in historical archives. Emma took a step toward her, hand outstretched. "Stay back." The words left Kael'thas's mouth before he could think. Every eye in the chamber, including Emma's unnervingly direct gaze, turned to him. Emma's expression shifted from concern to confusion. "Chief Kael'thas, what's happening?" What was happening? The Galactic Peace Summit, 3 years in the planning, with the entire Forbidden Zones Treaty hanging in the balance, was seconds from collapse because a human in a business suit was being helpful. 10,000 delegates from 47 species, all gathered in this station, all potential prey. His tactical system flashed another alert. Emma's stress pheromones had shifted, not to aggression but to worry. Pack protection markers, social concern hormones. The readings made no sense. Predators didn't emit empathy signals. "Chief?" Emma took another step. Zara whimpered and pressed herself against the wall. "Ms. Johnson, I need you to remain where you are." Kael'thas kept his voice level, professional. His hand moved to the emergency evacuation control. "I don't understand." Emma's eyes widened. "Did I do something wrong? I was just trying to—" "Your biology." Vexia's voice cut through the comm on an open channel now, broadcasting to the security team. "Ms. Johnson, do you know what you are?" Emma blinked. "I'm a diplomat? From Earth. I sent my credentials weeks ago." "You're a predator." Kael'thas watched her face carefully. "An apex predator. Our sensors are detecting threat markers that indicate you're biologically designed to hunt and kill prey species, which would be approximately," he glanced at his roster, "38 of the 47 species currently in this station." For a long moment, Emma just stared at him. Then she looked down at her hands, at the coffee pot, at the terrified faces around the room. Her expression did something complicated. "Oh," she said quietly. "Oh, shit, you don't know." "Don't know what?" Kael'thas demanded. Emma met his eyes, direct predator eye contact that sent another jolt of instinctive fear down his spine, and said, "About humans, about what we are and what we chose not to be." The threat alarm shrieked again. Emma had just activated another predator marker: sustained eye contact, dominance behavior, challenge posture. Except she looked apologetic. "Ms. Johnson, I have 10,000 sentient beings on this station. If you're a threat—" "I'm not a threat." Emma's voice rose, then she caught herself, forced calm. "I mean, I am, technically, biologically speaking, yes, okay, but I'm not. I would never—" She ran a hand through her hair, a gesture that showed her teeth. Zara made another fear sound. Kael'thas's finger hovered over the evacuation control. 47 species, 3 years of negotiations. The peace treaty that could prevent another sector war, all of it balanced against the readings that said the smiling woman holding a coffee pot was the most dangerous thing in the room. "Chief Kael'thas," Emma said carefully, "I think we need to talk. About humans, about evolution, about why I'm standing here asking if anyone wants cream in their coffee instead of—" She stopped, seeming to realize how that sentence was going to end. "Can we please just talk?" The alarm continued its shriek. Emma Johnson continued to stand there, looking more concerned about everyone else's comfort than anything else. And Kael'thas had approximately 30 seconds to decide if he was looking at history's most successful predator camouflage or something his 300 years of security training had never prepared him for. A predator who didn't want to hunt. "Talk fast," he said. Kael'thas activated the containment field with a subtle gesture, a low-frequency barrier designed to trigger discomfort in predator species, force them back through neurological pressure. Emma walked through it like it wasn't there. "So about humans," she began, completely oblivious to the invisible wall she'd just breached. "We evolved on a pretty competitive planet. Lots of large fauna, limited resources, you know how it goes." She just walked through a Class 7 predator deterrent, Vexia breathed over the comm. "Kael'thas, that field should have stopped her cold. It's calibrated for apex-level threat response." "I'm aware," he muttered, watching Emma gesture animatedly as she spoke. "And yeah, we were persistence hunters. We'd pick a target, usually something big like a mammoth or a deer, and we'd just follow it. For days sometimes. Walk after it until it literally couldn't run anymore, then—" She made a casual gesture that caused the Quillen delegation to huddle tighter. "Well, you get the idea. You hunted megafauna to exhaustion?" Zara's voice was barely a whisper. "Your species would chase prey until their bodies failed." "I mean, yeah, but that was like 50,000 years ago," Emma smiled reassuringly. The Verdanian ambassador's shaking intensified. "We don't do that anymore. Mostly we get our food from stores now. I had a salad for lunch, actually." Vexia appeared at the chamber entrance, holding a medical scanner. Her scales had paled to almost white. "Ms. Johnson, I need to run some scans, for the record." Oh, sure, no problem. Emma stood still while the blue light passed over her. Is this about the predator thing? Because I promise I'm totally harmless. The scanner beeped, then beeped again, then made a sound Kael'thas had never heard it make before, a rising alarm tone that indicated biological readings beyond standard parameters. Impossible, Vexia whispered, staring at the display. Ms. Johnson, how far can you run? Emma shrugged. I did a half marathon last year, about 13 miles. Some humans do way more, ultramarathons, 100-milers. My friend Sarah did a 50-kilometer trail run last month. 50 kilometers? Vexia looked like she might faint. Your species voluntarily runs 50 kilometers for recreation? Well, yeah, it's fun. Emma's confusion was evident. Don't you guys exercise? Ms. Johnson, the average sapient species can sprint approximately 2 to 3 kilometers before complete cardiovascular failure. You're describing recreational activity that would kill most of us. Around the room, the prey species delegates had begun unconsciously grouping together. Classic herd behavior. The Threxians had moved to the far side of the chamber. Even the Cormac ambassador, whose species was classified as an ambush predator, had edged away from Emma's position. Okay, but we're not in a hunting scenario here, Emma said, her voice taking on a strained patience. We're negotiating a peace treaty. I'm literally here to prevent conflict. She noticed the clustering, the avoidance. Her expression shifted to concern. Wait, is everyone okay? You all seem really nervous. She took a step toward the Verdanian delegation. Zara made a high-pitched sound of distress. Don't! Kael'thas started, but Emma was already moving. Hey, it's okay. Emma's voice dropped, became softer. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I promise. Kael'thas's threat display exploded with new data. Pack protection pheromones, social bonding hormones, caretaking behavioral markers. Emma was activating every predator signal associated with protecting group members. She's exhibiting pack loyalty indicators, Vexia said, her voice climbing toward panic. Kael'thas, this doesn't make sense. Apex predators don't register prey species as pack. They register them as food. I'm getting that, he growled, watching Emma try to comfort Zara, which only made the Verdanian shake harder. His calm crackled. Security Chief Kael'thas, this is High Command. We've been monitoring your situation. Confirm. You have an active apex predator at the Peace Summit? Confirmed. Kael'thas kept his eyes on Emma. But Command, the readings are contradictory. She's registering as both threat and caregiver, simultaneously. That's not possible. I'm aware, sir. Emma had crouched down to Zara's level, making herself smaller, less threatening. The gesture would have been effective if her entire biology wasn't screaming, predator, to every instinct in the room. Ambassador Zara, I'm so sorry I scared you. That wasn't my intention at all. Zara whimpered. Emma's face fell. Oh no, I'm making it worse. Emma stood quickly, backed away. Okay, I'll stay over here. Far away. Is this better? Ms. Johnson, Kael'thas said, carefully, do you understand what you are? What your species represents to most of the galaxy? I mean, apparently I'm terrifying, Emma laughed nervously. The sound, showing teeth, predator display, caused 3 delegates across the room to faint. Medical teams rushed forward. Emma's eyes widened in horror. Oh my God, did I just... High Command, we need immediate threat assessment, Kael'thas said into his comm. The human appears to be unaware of her own predator status. She's trying to help, and it's causing mass panic. Evacuate the station, came the order. Sir, she's not showing aggression. She's an apex predator who doesn't know she's an apex predator. That's somehow worse. Evacuate, now. Kael'thas looked up. Emma was already moving toward the collapsed delegates. Her face etched with concern, completely missing how every conscious being in the room was tracking her movement with the fixed attention of prey, watching death approach. Let me help, Emma said, reaching toward the medical team. I'm trained in first aid. The medics scattered. Or not, Emma said quietly, her hands falling to her sides. Okay, I'll stand here then. She stood there, utterly still, looking more lost than dangerous. Every sensor said she could kill half the room before they could respond. Her expression said she'd rather die than hurt anyone. Kael'thas had 300 years of security experience. None of it had prepared him for this. A predator who didn't want to be a predator. Vexia pulled up her scan results on the main display, her hands trembling as she highlighted each finding. Ms. Johnson, I need you to understand what these readings mean. You're not just a predator, you're biologically classified as a super predator. Top of the food chain. No natural enemies. Evolved to hunt anything that moves. Emma looked at the holographic breakdown of her own physiology, the forward-facing eyes, the endurance-adapted cardiovascular system, the omnivorous dentition, and laughed. Yeah, I guess technically, but we mostly eat salads now. I mean, I had a really good Caesar salad for lunch, with croutons. The room went silent. You eat salads, Kael'thas said slowly. And pasta, lots of pasta. Emma shrugged. Look, yeah, humans can eat meat. We did for most of our evolution, but we also figured out agriculture about 10,000 years ago and realized we didn't have to chase down our dinner anymore. Way more efficient to just grow stuff. You chose, Vexia whispered. You're saying your species voluntarily stopped hunting? Well, not completely. Some people still hunt for food, but it's pretty rare. Most of us get our protein from less dramatic sources. Emma gestured helplessly. We developed ethical frameworks around it, philosophy, animal rights movements. Some humans don't eat meat at all. We call them vegetarians or vegans. Philosophy. Kael'thas felt his understanding of biology beginning to crack. You're telling me your species applied philosophy to overcome evolutionary imperatives? I mean, it's more complicated than that, but basically? Emma sat down, apparently deciding that standing was too threatening. We spent a lot of time thinking about suffering, about whether just because we could hunt and kill things we should, and most of us decided, no, not unless we have to. Predators don't make that choice, Vexia said flatly. Predator species can be trained, conditioned, but the instinct remains. It's biology. You can't just decide to override millions of years of evolution. Except we did. Emma's voice was gentle but firm. Look, it wasn't easy. Human history is full of violence. We spent thousands of years fighting each other, hunting everything, being exactly what you'd expect from an apex predator. But then we developed language and culture, and we started asking questions like, is this right? And how do we want to live? And slowly, really slowly, we changed. You changed your nature, Kael'thas said. It wasn't a question. It was an impossibility spoken aloud. We decided killing each other was bad, so we just stopped. Mostly, Emma winced. I mean, we still have conflicts, and some humans still do terrible things, but as a species? We made rules, laws, social contracts. We agreed that empathy matters more than instinct. The Cormac ambassador spoke up, his voice rough with disbelief. I am a predator species. I understand the hunting drive. It is not something you suppress with philosophy. It is fundamental, core. When I see prey, my body responds. I can control my actions, but not my biology. Right, yeah, we have that too. Emma nodded. But we built a society that says, having the urge doesn't mean you act on it. We have this whole thing called impulse control, self-regulation. We teach it to our children. Impossible, Vexia breathed. Also, we protect prey animals now, Emma added casually. Like, there are entire human organizations dedicated to protecting endangered species from other predators. We guard elephants from poachers. We rehabilitate injured wildlife. We create nature preserves. We literally use our predator abilities to protect prey species. Kael'thas's worldview was fragmenting. You're saying humans hunt other predators to save prey. Well, When you put it that way, it sounds weird, but yeah. Emma smiled, then caught herself, closed her mouth. Sorry, showing teeth. Still learning that's intimidating for you guys. She's aware of the threat displays, Vexia said, sounding dazed. She's consciously monitoring and suppressing them. It's called self-awareness, Emma offered. We know what we are. We just choose to be better than that. A soft, chittering sound came from beneath Kael'thas's console. His therapy animal, a small, rabbit-like creature from his homeworld, had escaped its enclosure. It hopped toward Emma. No! Kael'thas lunged forward, but the creature was already at Emma's feet. Emma looked down. Oh, hey there, little guy. The animal should have fled, should have recognized predator scent and panicked. Instead, it sat back on its haunches and looked up at Emma with curious eyes. Can I? Emma glanced at Kael'thas. Don't hurt her, he said, his voice barely functional. Emma slowly extended her hand. Those hands with opposable thumbs, designed for tool use and killing, and gently stroked the animal's fur. The creature leaned into her touch, making a contented sound. You're so soft, Emma murmured. What's her name? Lisa, Kael'thas managed. She's not running from you. Why would she? I'm being gentle. Emma continued the soft stroking motion. Lisa closed her eyes in pleasure. Animals can usually tell when you mean them harm. I don't, so... She shrugged. That's not how predator-prey dynamics work, Vexia said, but her conviction was crumbling. Prey species can't detect intent. They respond to threat markers, which you are actively displaying. Maybe she's responding to something else, Emma suggested. Like, I'm calm, so she's calm. I'm not seeing her as food, so she doesn't register me as a threat. You're consciously overriding your predator response, Kael'thas said slowly. And she can sense it. I guess? Emma looked confused. I mean, yeah, I could hurt her. But I won't, because that would be cruel and unnecessary, so I just... don't. The entire security framework of the Galactic Summit was based on one fundamental principle. Predators would be predators. You could train them, contain them, but you couldn't change what they were. It was biology. It was nature. It was immutable. Emma Johnson sat on the floor of the Grand Summit Hall, petting a prey animal that should have been fleeing for its life, and proved that principle wrong. How many humans are there? Kael'thas asked quietly. On Earth, about 8 billion. 8 billion apex predators, Vexia whispered. Who chose empathy over instinct? 8 billion super predators who decided to protect the things they could hunt, Kael'thas corrected. Emma looked up at them, still stroking Lysa's fur. Is that really so strange? We just figured out that being kind feels better than being cruel. Once you realize that, the choice is pretty easy. Kael'thas's entire understanding of predator species lay in ruins, and Emma Johnson had demolished it while discussing salad. Emma set Lysa down gently and stood, brushing off her suit. Okay, so here's the thing about human evolution. We got really, really good at hunting. Like, scary good. We developed tools, language, cooperative strategies. We could take down prey 10 times our size. And then, she paused, a wry smile crossing her face. We felt bad about it, so we made rules. You felt bad, Kael'thas repeated. Yeah. Turns out, when you develop complex language and abstract thinking, you start having these annoying things called feelings about causing suffering. Emma started pacing, a behavior that would normally trigger flight responses, but somehow her body language read as contemplative rather than predatory. We started asking questions like, does that animal feel pain, and would I want someone to do this to me? And once you start down that philosophical rabbit hole, well, she gestured broadly. Empathy happens. Vexia was frantically taking notes, her scientific training warring with her disbelief. But empathy requires seeing other beings as similar to yourself. Predators see prey as other, as resources. How did you bridge that cognitive gap? Social cooperation, Emma said simply. We were pack hunters, right? We had to work together, communicate, understand each other's intentions and feelings to hunt effectively. Those same neural pathways that let us coordinate an attack on a mammoth also let us understand suffering, develop compassion, build communities. She laughed. We basically used our pack hunting instincts to build civilizations instead of hunting parties. That's... Vexia looked at her data, then at Emma, then back at her data. That's actually brilliant. You weaponized your predator social bonding into species-wide cooperation. I mean, I wouldn't say weaponized, but sure. Emma shrugged. We figured out that working together and caring about each other made us stronger than just hunting. We built cities, developed laws, created art and music and philosophy. We channeled all that predator intelligence and energy into construction instead of destruction. Kael'thas stood, his posture rigid. The question had been building in his mind, and he had to ask, how do we know you won't activate? How do we know some instinct won't override your civilized behavior? Emma's response was immediate, a chuckle that showed her teeth. Several delegates tensed. Because I had a good breakfast and I'm not a sociopath? The casualness of her answer was somehow more reassuring than any formal protocol. Okay, but seriously, Emma continued, humans have self-control. We have societal constraints, ethical frameworks, legal systems. We've spent thousands of years building structures specifically to manage our worst impulses. I don't hurt people because... She thought for a moment. Because I don't want to. Because it's wrong. Because I was raised in a society that values life and justice and peace. Because I've spent my entire life learning how to be a good person. Show us, Vexia said suddenly. Can you demonstrate this control? Emma raised an eyebrow. You want me to what, exactly? Trigger a predator response, then suppress it. Prove you have conscious control. That's a weird request, but okay. Emma looked around the room, her gaze settling on the still nervous Quillen delegation. She locked eyes with them, direct predator eye contact. Kael'thas's sensors immediately flared. Threat assessment active, targeting behavior, pursuit tracking engaged. Then Emma smiled softly and looked away, deliberately, breaking the contact. The sensors dropped. Threat assessment ceased. Pursuit behavior suppressed. See, Emma said. I can feel the instinct, the awareness of who's vulnerable, the calculation of pursuit vectors. It's there. I just choose not to act on it. You're aware of the predator response happening inside you, Kael'thas said, stunned, and you consciously override it. Every day, actually, probably 100 times a day. Emma's tone was matter of fact. That's what being human is. We have these ancient instincts, these evolutionary drives, and we constantly choose whether to indulge them or not. Usually we choose not. The Cormac ambassador leaned forward. How do you teach this? How does a predator species learn to suppress itself? We start when we're kids, social development, emotional regulation, empathy training. We teach children to share, to be kind, to consider how their actions affect others. Emma's expression turned thoughtful. We're not born civilized, we have to learn it. But we do learn it. Most of us, anyway. Most, Kael'thas noted. Yeah, some humans still do terrible things. We're not perfect. Emma's honesty was disarming. But the vast majority of us manage to go through our entire lives without hunting anything more threatening than a good parking spot. We have police, courts, prisons for the ones who can't control themselves. We've built entire social systems around the principle that predator instincts can and must be managed. Zara spoke up for the first time since her panic attack, her voice trembling but curious. Ms. Johnson, do you ever want to hunt? Is the instinct still there? Emma considered this carefully. Sometimes I get competitive. Sports, games, that kind of thing. That's probably the hunting instinct channeled into safe outlets. And yeah, sometimes I see something moving quickly in my peripheral vision and my attention locks onto it automatically. But want to actually hunt and kill something? She shook her head firmly. No, that's not who I choose to be. Choose, Vexia murmured. You keep using that word. Because that's what it is. A choice. Emma looked around the room at all the species watching her with varying degrees of fear and fascination. We're predators who chose to become protectors. We took all that strength and intelligence and determination, and we pointed it at building rather than destroying, at healing rather than harming, at peace rather than violence. Kael'thas felt something shift in his understanding. You're not suppressing your nature, you're redirecting it. Exactly, Emma pointed at him enthusiastically, a gesture that made 3 delegates flinch, but Kael'thas understood now was merely emphasis. We're still determined, still persistent, still intelligent problem solvers. We just solve different problems now, like how to get 47 species to agree on a peace treaty. A long silence filled the chamber. Then the Threxian trade minister spoke, his voice thoughtful. A predator species that chooses to protect prey species, that uses hunting instincts to pursue peace instead of violence. He looked at Kael'thas. Chief, I believe we've been thinking about this wrong. The humans aren't a threat to this summit. They might be exactly what this summit needs, Kael'thas finished. Peacekeepers who understand violence but choose peace. Predators who protect rather than hunt. Emma blinked. Wait, are you offering me a job? We're reconsidering, Kael'thas said, everything we thought we knew about predator species. And in that moment, the entire framework of galactic security began to shift. The Galactic Council's emergency session convened within hours, representatives from all 47 species filling the secondary chamber via holographic link. Kael'thas stood at the podium, still processing what he'd witnessed. We're calling it the human paradox, he began, pulling up Emma's biological scans. A species that exhibits every marker of an apex superpredator, yet has voluntarily constructed social systems to suppress and redirect those instincts toward cooperation and protection. The council chamber erupted in overlapping voices, confusion, disbelief, fear. Order! The council speaker, a Metherian elder, raised her crystalline appendages. Security Chief, you're proposing a new classification? Yes, Speaker. I recommend we establish a designation, conscious apex predators. Species that possess predator biology, but have developed sufficient self-awareness and social structures to override instinctual behaviors through choice. Vexia stepped forward, her scientific excitement overriding her earlier terror. The implications are staggering. Humans demonstrate predator biology combined with prey species levels of empathy. They've somehow merged 2 completely incompatible behavioral frameworks into a functional whole. And you've verified this isn't an elaborate deception? The Cormac representative's skepticism was evident. I watched a human deliberately trigger and then suppress targeting instincts in real time, Kael'thas said. I watched my therapy animal, a prey species, trust her completely. I watched her show genuine distress at causing fear in others. This isn't deception. This is a fundamental redirection of predator nature. On the main screen, Emma's case file appeared. Diplomat, human female, exhibits apex predator biology with demonstrated voluntary control and prey species protection behaviors. We need to reconsider our security protocols, Kael'thas continued. Our entire framework assumes predators cannot be trusted to suppress instinct. The humans prove that assumption false. Back in the Grand Summit Hall, delegates were slowly returning. Zara approached Emma cautiously, her natural fear warring with newfound understanding. Ms. Johnson, the Verdanian ambassador said softly, I wanted to thank you. Emma looked surprised. For what? I scared you half to death. For choosing to be safe. Zara's voice trembled but held steady. You could hurt me. Your biology is designed for it, but you choose not to. That choice, it matters. Emma's expression softened. Ambassador Zara, you're people. You're a person with thoughts and feelings and probably family waiting for you at home. Why would I hurt people? The concept seemed to short-circuit Zara's understanding. Because I'm prey. No, you're a person, Emma repeated gently. Species doesn't matter. Sentience does. Consciousness does. Once you recognize someone as a thinking, feeling being, hurting them becomes unthinkable. Vexia, documenting everything, looked up from her notes. Species-blind empathy. You don't distinguish between predator and prey when determining moral worth. I guess, Emma shrugged. We just call it not being a jerk. The Threxian trade minister pulled up the draft treaty. In light of recent developments, I'm proposing an amendment. Article 7. Humans may be requested as neutral peacekeepers in conflict zones, leveraging their unique position as apex predators with demonstrated commitment to peace. Emma laughed, a sound that no longer triggered quite the same panic. So basically, I'm scary enough that everyone behaves? You're a predator who wants prey species to thrive, Vexia said. That's not scary, that's revolutionary. On Earth, we have these things called national parks, Emma offered, protected wilderness areas. Humans, apex predators, actively guard those spaces from development, hunting, destruction. We protect ecosystems that don't benefit us economically because we've decided they have value beyond our needs. You protect your planet's prey species, Kael'thas said, finally understanding the full scope, not despite being predators. Because you're predators who chose a different path. Exactly. Emma's enthusiasm was infectious. We figured out that a thriving ecosystem is better than a depleted one, that biodiversity is worth preserving, that we're stronger when we protect rather than destroy. The council speaker's hologram flickered into the chamber. The council has voted. We accept humanity's application for full diplomatic status. Furthermore, we're establishing the Predator Reformation Initiative, studying whether other predator species might develop similar conscious control with proper social development. You're going to try to teach other predators to be like humans? Emma looked amazed. We're going to try, the speaker confirmed. You've proven it's possible. Perhaps other species can learn. Emma checked her watch, a gesture that still showed off her opposable thumbs, but now read as endearing rather than threatening. I hate to interrupt this historic moment, but I have another meeting in 20 minutes. Of course, Ms. Johnson, Kael'thas said. We'll transmit the revised protocols. Actually, Zara spoke up, Ms. Johnson, I was wondering, would you like to have lunch afterward? I'd like to learn more about Earth. About humans, she paused, about friendship. Emma's face lit up. Are you serious? I'd love that. There's this great place on level 7 that does amazing cross-species cuisine. They have this Verdanian grain bowl that, she stopped, grinning. Sorry, I'm rambling. Yes, lunch, absolutely. A prey species and an apex predator, Vexia murmured, sharing a voluntary social meal. We call it getting lunch with a friend, Emma said warmly. Kael'thas watched his threat display as Emma gathered her things. The sensors still registered predator, forward-facing eyes, SOT persistence hunter physiology, apex-level threat potential. But now, in the notes section, new tags appeared. Safe, conscious control, protected status, chooses peace. Classification, conscious apex predator. Emma paused at the chamber exit. Oh, and Chief Kael'thas, don't worry, I already ate. The joke landed differently now, not as a threat, but as reassurance. A predator acknowledging her nature while promising control. Zara giggled nervously, then more genuinely. Emma laughed with her. Kael'thas watched an apex predator and a prey species walk out of the chamber together, already discussing restaurant options and comparing notes on their favorite foods. Behind them, the galaxy's greatest minds were frantically rewriting centuries of predator-prey theory. Emma pulled out her phone, scrolling through restaurant reviews, completely oblivious to the paradigm shift happening in her wake. Just another day at work, just another diplomatic lunch, just another human choosing kindness over instinct. In 300 years of security work, Kael'thas had never seen anything like it. The universe, he thought, was going to have to make some serious adjustments. Apex predators could choose peace. Humans had proven it, and that changed everything. End.